So we'll start the presentation first, that we introduce you one by one. First, I would like to welcome everyone to our webinar. We have dedicated some webinars to us people who have experience in supply chain, who have been helping people to develop across the globe in supply chain. So today we have 3 fantastic speakers. I met them in person in Chicago, right? We met all of us in Chicago in Supply Chain Connect by ASCM. So I invited them to share with us today, talk to the people, help us to understand about our supply chain career, about our supply chain skill gap, how supply chain is changing. So we will introduce them one by one. So we start by Gustavo, please.
Hello, good afternoon for Middle East. Good morning for America. I'm very glad to be here with you. Having so many people here, it shows the importance that supply chain has for everyone. So I'm going to share part of my experience. I've been working for more than 30 years in the supply chain area, manufacturing companies, consulting companies, and also software companies. So I'll try to share all of my knowledge here.
So Gustavo, you are from Mexico, Latin America, right? Okay.
Yes, I'm from Mexico.
Great. So we move on. So Jeffrey, please.
Yes, good morning. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I'm from the US. I live in a small, well, not a small town, I guess it's 1 million or so, in Raleigh, North Carolina. I am a supply chain management practitioner that happens to be an APICS fellow and master instructor. I've spent quite a few years in manufacturing and distribution, but I really specialize in the training and development of supply chain professionals, both from the perspective of instruction to them, coaching and mentoring. So that's really what I do. And I teach all over the world, and I teach typically virtually these days, although I'm starting to do in-person instruction also. So thank you. Look forward to your questions.
Okay, great. And we have our nice lady, Lucille. Lucille, please.
Hi, good day, everyone. I'm Lucille Doctor. I'm a senior manager for supply chain planning for US Cellular out here in Chicago. And currently in my role, I am responsible for the supply planning, demand planning, and inventory planning for our network operations. So those are the cell site towers that power up their cell phone devices. I have a 14 plus years experience in supply chain. I started it in global supply chain, and then I worked for a 3PL. It was Menlo Logistics before, then it became XPO. I worked there for a good amount of time working in warehousing, transportation, and all the other fields, and currently at US Cellular. I'm very excited to join a group of experts here.
So the challenge is that we have great experts, and myself is Shireen. I have been facilitating these webinars for some time. I have 25 plus years of experience in operation excellence supply chain. And I'm so proud we are partners for ASCM, authorized partners. And we always like people to learn. So sharing my knowledge is my passion. So our challenge that we have great expertise. Every one of them will share a presentation, will give us a learning piece. We will have talks about supply chain, fantastic presentations, people, talents, young people, what you should do. So the whole webinar will be in English, and quickly I'll just say one in Arabic, one sentence. برحب بيكم، أهلا بيكم كلكم معانا. أنا شيرين مسلم، مهندسة ميكانيكا، عندي أكتر من 25 سنة خبرة في السبلاي تشين والتحسين المستمر. اخترت النهاردة إن احنا نبقى مع بعض، وإن أنا ما اتعلمش لوحدي، إن أنا قابلت ناس شاطرة، فأنا حبيت إن هم كمان يوصلوا لكم knowledge. So simply I welcomed everyone. I said I don't like to learn alone. I learn it from all of you. So I want everyone tonight to learn from the 3 of you. Okay? So Gustavo, floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm glad we get back to English. All right. Good afternoon, everyone in Middle East, and good morning here in America. Let's start with our presentation. First of all, I want to thank Symbios-Consulting for inviting me for this presentation. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you. We're going to start talking about the supply chain most learned skills. And I think with all the development that we have in the supply chain, we have a talent mismatch. The supply chain has been growing a lot, and maybe the people that works in the supply chain have not. So we have a gap. Most executives recognize that we have to go increase our knowledge in the supply chain. Go ahead. So we have been changing a lot. First, people buy just what it was available at the early 90s. Then, go ahead. Then we moved to a mass production environment where we produce a lot, sometimes more than we needed. Go ahead. So sometimes we even have a surplus of products. We produce a lot of products that we didn't need. That's an issue in the supply chain. And we are moving now or evolving to a mass, from a mass era consumption to a stage-focused consumption. More specialized products, more customized products. There's more variety of products, and that makes the supply chain more difficult, more difficult to manage. So let's talk about how we used to learn. The old paradigm was that we had an education maybe in the first 20-something years of your life. Then you work until you were 60, 65, retire, and the life expectancy was around 70 to 75 years. Right now, this has changed. Life expectancy is much longer, so we have to work longer and able to survive. And the thing is, the change rate is humongous. It's big. There's a lot of changes. So people have to keep learning. So the learning process doesn't stop at 20-something. We have to keep learning through a whole professional life. So about the new skills that we require in the supply chain, we always talk about the digital supply chains, but there's a prerequisite. We need to know the end-to-end supply chain. We need to know the processes from the supply chain strategy to order management, demand management, forecasting, inventory management, production planning, logistics, and performance measurement. So first of all, we have to learn our supply chain or our process, and there is a lack of knowledge in that area. Only about 5% of the supply chain executives know the whole end-to-end supply chain. So that's why all of this training that, for example, ESCM offers, it's a great opportunity to learn all of the processes before you embrace a digital supply chain transformation. The possibility of success would be much higher. Then we have been using business intelligence, data mastery. We need to use the information. We use ERP systems that generates a lot of information because they are transactional systems, but we were not using that information to take intelligent decisions. We're also using now predictive management, predictive analytics for demand management. So we want to improve our forecasts so we can reduce inventories and at the same time having better selling, better customer service. There are another area that we now have to focus is advanced network configuration. And in the past, the networks didn't change that much. So it wasn't that important to have knowledge in that area. But right now, networks change too much. So we have to reconfigure the supply chain network more often than not. Operational logistics is also a very important part we have to develop. A lot of the cost of the supply chain is in that area. Then we have to know about supply chain strategy and how it fits the business strategy. And we have been working a lot in risk management with all these disruptions that we have in the supply chain. We better have a very good risk management process, so the supply chain can be resilient. There are some other models like demand-driven models that focus on demand, and they move from cost-oriented to flow-oriented, and they also want to improve customer service and reduce our inventories. So what's the supply chain management role in this global crisis? I like this quote from Professor Edward Anderson, that we have become so used to global supply chains that we barely think about them. It's when things go wrong, then we'll sit up and take notice. All the products that we use in an everyday life, they might come from a global supply chain, and it passed from different countries and even different continents. So everything was going pretty well. 2019, I think supply chains were working very nicely. They were getting very efficient. They had some problems, but not that much, until it didn't. Until 2020 hit us with a pandemic. So that pandemic proved we still had some opportunities in our supply chains. For 2021, new waves of COVID impact us. A lot of industries went down. Some of them even went to bankruptcy. And some others had opportunities, because it's always the same. There are opportunities and there are also threats. So by 2022, when we were getting out of the COVID situation, another problem arises, like the Ukraine war. And that affects a lot of supply chains. Maybe we can say, okay, we don't do commerce with Ukraine, but global supply chains are interconnected. So one problem in one part of the world can affect a lot of parts of the world. For example, in Ukraine, the food supply chain has been affected. All the grain that Ukraine exported, it's now problematic with the Black Sea situation. And also the energy is another problem for the supply chain, because with all the restrictions they are applying to Russia, they cannot sell oil, they cannot sell gas to Europe. So prices of the energy goes up, and it provokes an inflation that affects all of us. So the supply chain role in managing global crisis is very, very important. We could saw it at the COVID pandemic. Supply chain was very important to get the much needed vaccines everywhere. Some of the supply chains were better than others. A lot of countries had a very good supply chain and they delivered the vaccines on time. Some others struggled because their supply chain was not as robust as the others. Supply chains are also very, very important. For example, when there are catastrophic events like the Ian hurricane in Florida, that's very recent. So gasoline supply chain got a problem, food, medicines, and also in the war, supply chain is very important, because we have to get the food and the medicines much needed in the front. So what's next? Do we think disruptions ended here? And we think it doesn't. It's going to keep going on. Disruptions are going to be part of our life. So we have to start working on that. Go to the next one, please. This is a new supply chain stability index made by ASCM and KPMG. And it shows that the stress of supply chains doubled in the last 2 years. Maybe a lot of it came from the pandemic. But this index shows that the disruptions are going to be here and they're here to stay. So we have to prepare the supply chains to manage these disruptions. We have to think that almost every product we consume at our home, it comes from a global network that touches different countries, different continents, different companies. So networks are spread across multiple countries. And we need supply chains that have a good flow of information, good processes, and resources across the globe. We're going to still face a lot of shortages. We still have shortages in the automotive industry, for example. We have shortages in labor, like, for example, the drivers. We don't have enough drivers to move the product. So even when we have the product, we cannot move it. So that also impacts the supply chain. And that is combined with the spike of demand. Now that the pandemic is over, some of the industries have spikes of demand. We have doing some strategies to manage this global crisis. For example, nearshoring, production closer to consumption. We are moving from global supply chains, maybe to a regional supply chains, much shorter supply chains. We have been investing a lot in technology, and I think there is a lot to invest in some countries. And also, we have to monitor the health of the suppliers. We have to see if our suppliers are resilient enough to make sure that we are going to get the products in time. So we have to build a resilient supply chains. We have to have supply chains that are resistant and can recover from any disruption. For that, we need visibility, we need collaboration, we need agile supply chains, flexible. We need redundancy sometimes. For example, redundancy of suppliers, key suppliers. And we also need to focus on a risk management culture, to evaluate what the risks are, and to define what are the strategies to minimize those risks. So thank you. That's all I have for you.
Thank you. That was really quick and very effective and efficient. Please stay with us. If you have any questions, please, the audience, if you have any questions, please write it in Q&A section. So now we move to Jeffrey, because we had topics about questions about how we can enhance supply chain talents and skills to cope with such a change. What should the supply chain leaders do? What skills and knowledge and experience and training is needed for everyone? So please, thank you, Jeffrey, for joining.
Yes, good evening. I want to focus on how we develop ourselves and how we are then able to affect the supply chain in a positive way. So much is happening during the last 3 years. Disruptions are just going to continue. A lot of people think it's going to be left behind, but it's really going to continue. Could you go back to the previous slide just a moment, please? Okay, so my view is that if you don't continue to improve your skill set, your individual skill set, that you're going to get left behind. And not only will you get left behind, but so will your organization. It's great to have a great organization, a great processes that you do in the supply chain, but it's really based upon you and I making sure that we are competent. So let's go to the next slide. This is a very simple viewpoint I have. I think there's 3 elements that we need to do to build our skills, and I'm going to lay them out for you here. And but if you have questions or anything, please ask today or send me an email, and I'll give you the detail that you want. I want to provide you the concept more today. I think it's important to improve your skills by continuing to learn, continuing to absorb knowledge. And you don't need advanced knowledge in most cases. You need just the stepping stones, the key concepts, the best practices, and the terminology and the technologies is what you need. So what I recommend, the first thing, is to develop a reading list. And you do that by just looking at the areas that you are strong in and the areas you're not, and the areas that you need to enhance your skills. Put together a reading list. Better still, reach out to me or someone else who's a learning and development practitioner in supply chain to help you develop that list, because the list will differ based upon your skill set, the type of job you're in, the industry, and all. But you need a reading list, and putting together the list is not going to solve the problem. You got to actually go out and read it and look at things. Now, reading is not a big book these days. It's an article. It could be a book, but you don't really need to read the book. You just scan the book. Okay, you just stay current on what's going on. What's the current trends? What are problems people are having, organizations having? So develop that reading list. On my list, I probably have 20, 22 books on it, and I go through them, hopefully one a week kind of thing. And I probably only read about 20% of the pages if it's a book. Now, another thing you can do is the articles. Get an article, the blogs that come in, take a look at them. If you read the first couple of sentences and it makes sense, then read the whole article. So that's the first thing. Develop that professional reading list and actually go out and read it. Secondly, I would say is invest in yourself. And you can do this. When I say invest, I'm not only talking about money, I'm talking about time. So look at all the webinars that are out there. Select a couple of them. What I do, I collect 3 a week that I want to attend. If I only attend one, I still feel pretty good about it. But I overcommit on webinars, and I try to go to as many as I want. And, you know, webinars, 35, 40 minutes of talking. On-demand courses, you can do those things online these days for almost nothing. The initiative through the Open University, you can have some courses that are available online for almost no cost. Education courses like through LinkedIn Learning, fantastic stuff. YouTube videos, again, very good stuff. So second one is invest in yourself and with time. And the last one, because I do this a lot, is get a certification. Now, why a certification? For one thing, you're studying, you're learning new knowledge, or you're enhancing your skills, but you're also validating that knowledge by taking an exam. Now, according to a survey that was done, this was done by ASCM, APICS, these are the 5 technical skills that you need. So you're reading, you're studying, all these to be focused on these. Take a look down the left-hand side of the slide, the basics. You got to do that first. Okay? I know what some of y'all are saying. You mean I need to know about project management and risk management and technologies? You need to be an expert or at least extremely knowledgeable in all of those. And then on the other extreme, you know, you can have the knowledge, not the other extreme, but what supplements that is the leadership and management. And there's a difference, as we all know, between management and leadership, but you've got to be a leader and you got to be good at these skills. So many new professionals are not very good at this these days. Some of the older people too, because we haven't been in the same building in the last 2 years. But again, you got to have a combination of hard skills, soft skills to be very, very efficient. Next slide, please. Oh, I guess that was it. Look forward to your questions. Thank you very much for inviting me to attend and to participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. You have been training hundreds of classes and delivering and sharing knowledge. So thank you for this.
You're welcome.
Lucille.
Thank you, Sharon. Okay, I will be talking about practical approach also. I like the last two speakers concept and practical approach. So I will be piling on into that. I want to start this by asking you, when you were young, if we can move to the next slide, when you were young, how many of you knew exactly what you wanted to be when you grow up? Probably we're so quick to say, oh, I wanted to be a lawyer, I wanted to be an astronaut. But now, to this current time, how many of you knew exactly what you want to do next in your career? With so many options, how do you decide what career is right for you? And if you don't have any idea what you want to do, the task may seem really insurmountable. And the same goes in deciding the particular area in supply chain that you might want to pursue, or currently trying to decide where you want to be good at. That was the same case for me 15 years ago. I did not know anything about supply chain 15 years ago and did not realize that it will become a passion of mine. I didn't realize that 15 years later, it will be a mainstream terminology that at some point we will be appearing in news daily, our industry, or something that the White House will create a special team for. Stumbling upon supply chain was a situation for me that turned into an opportunity. My education background has nothing to do with supply chain. My first job in the industry, actually, I was an administrative assistant, booking meetings. And then one day I was tasked to book a shipment, just a FedEx, a small parcel shipment, and it was hazmat. And I turned that, and through that, I realized that it is a big industry. It is a growing industry, and it's becoming relevant. It's something that I want to continuously pursue. So how did I navigate this path over the past 14 years? If we can move to the next slide. There is no one size fits all or a playbook into having a great career in supply chain. I myself have a long ways to go. I'm learning from the first two speakers, and I frequently revisit what I want to do next. But what I can truly say is that I am enjoying what I'm doing right now, what I'm seeing. And despite all the challenges we are dealing with, I find that as an excitement to find new skills. So if you're not sure how to begin, a little online search or asking people around, attending supply chain events like this is a start. You can really dive into getting an experience, even if you don't know anyone in supply chain, through online search, and then start taking in maybe, I put in the slide that there's no substitute for experience. That's really the biggest thing for you to test for yourself if this is something that you would like to do long term. And it takes practice to be good at something. So starting in supply chain, if you haven't started yet, is something that you just have to get on. You can do that if you're still a student by taking internship, applying maybe a part-time position or an entry-level position. Or if you are a seasoned, I've noticed that there are a lot of seasoned professionals here and you're considering a switch. It's the area of supply chain is something that you're getting bored. Take on a stretch assignment in other areas of supply chain. Get that in-depth work experience. In supply chain, there are plenty of job opportunities for professionals, and it has a wide range of skill sets. And if your interests are also wide, this is definitely the area that the traditional bachelor's degree is not required to get started. The next thing I would recommend is building skills and proficiency. We heard our previous two speakers talk a lot on this. It helps you build your brand and establish what you're good at. It will expand the breadth of what you do in supply chain management. For me, there are some practical skills that I really had to work on for myself, such as working on systems, MRPs, material resource plannings, or enterprise resource plannings like SAP or Oracle, analytical skills, as basic as Excel. My college education didn't really get me a practice on Excel, so I spent so many hours looking on YouTube or online how to perform a function or a transaction. So stay current with the skills and knowledge that are needed in this ever-changing workplace. The other thing, is the basic computer skills. I've seen a lot of throughout the year that are learning to start doing PowerPoint presentation. Those are very handy skills to have. Always improve yourself no matter where you are in the position. That is very helpful for me. Next one is networking. What I realized is what you know is important, but who you know is the key. So relationships are key to success. Surround yourself with people that aspire you to be better. Developing and managing your network is very important to inspire you to do better. And do not underestimate the power of mentorship. I had a lot of mentors throughout my career that helped me realize what are the other opportunities out there. They help assist me and give me feedback. And some of the highest achievers in the history, either in politics, in business, or artists, entrepreneurs, they have sought the guidance of a mentor. These mentors can be eventually your sponsor. If you're looking to move to a different career, different area, this can be a good support system for you. So build your brand and manage your impression. Perception is reality, and you want others to perceive you in a positive light. Strategically, you can develop your brand and manage your impression so others can quickly see you as a potential candidate, advocate for your success later on. The next one is continuous learning, which is key to progression and success. Jeffrey shared a lot of the practical approach on this earlier. Anticipate the skills and the tools that you will need to navigate the unknown waters of the future and work to develop those toolbox or resources that can assist you when you encounter new challenges. Gustavo talked a lot of the things that we have threaded the past few years and still continuously dealing with. How are we prepared to handle that? Maybe we're not prepared, but we have something that we can use to be ready to tackle them. You can also supplement this by, like Jeff mentioned, reading books, maybe perusing through books, listening to audiobooks. Podcasts are very helpful for me on my drive to work, or sometimes if I'm cleaning, I would just play something and hear people talk. And even to enhancing my vocabulary, it comes handy. And there are also formal learning, like taking a certification, the Certified Supply Chain Professional through ASCM. For me, currently, I'm taking my MBA to elevate my leadership skills and other industry-related classes. And finally, keep going. Frequently revisit your goals. You can seek out opportunities or build one. Seek feedback. Feedback has been one of the important things for me in navigating supply chain. Sometimes I stumble, is this what I really wanted to do? Do I want to do switch? I have probably worked in 10 different roles throughout my supply chain career. And sometimes I get too passionate about something, and then, is this something I want to do 10 years from now? So getting a feedback and guidance are extremely important for me. And once you started working on your goals, you need to evaluate your progress by figuring out what's working and what's not. But most of all, one of the most important realizations for me is that, as cliche as this may sound, is the reality of embracing work-life balance. I did not want to eventually hate the career I aspired for because I forgot to take care of myself. I want to make a bigger impact at work and in the world, but without sacrificing my personal health or happiness. And it's proven that those who have good work-life balance are healthier, they're more productive, they're more creative, they're happier, and can own up to their career better. Okay, so now that I have shared some of the steps that I have taken or I proved to be applicable for me, what are my realization or observations in the supply chain career? First of that is the career goes beyond movement of goods or storage. According to Harvard Business Review, in US alone, 2 years ago, US supply chain accounts for 37% of all the domestic jobs. So in every supply chain consists of multiple steps each with distinct responsibilities. And those entering this field have a number of focus that they can explore. Jeffrey mentioned a lot of those. Logistics, distribution, inventory management, quality assurance, transportation, warehousing, the list goes on. And even now, with the evolution of technology, those technology-related jobs are starting to bud. Data science, analytics, there are plethora of areas that you can explore in supply chain. The other thing is communication is part of every supply chain leader's job description. You will interact with various stakeholders, be it a customer, a supplier, investors, employees, and at times your role might require you to bargain for shipping rates or transportation arrangements with your 3PLs, or maintaining the communication throughout the procurement life cycle with vendors, suppliers, or shipping contracts. And not just in supply chain, but anywhere where you want to build a career, communicating with impact is very important. Be data-driven, analytical, and critical thinker. That's one also realization for me earlier in my career, that it is dealing with a lot of information and data. I had to learn how to interpret and synthesize information so I can communicate it for decision-making. My college education, I did not get any practice on Excel, so I spent so many hours watching YouTube how to perform Excel transactions. And I avoided math earlier in my life only to realize that it's something that I will live and breathe in. Supply chain is really data intense, and it is important to quickly draw conclusion from large amount of data. Project management, it has been covered earlier. It is very true that it will have a long-term benefits, be it in operations, in planning, in strategy building. The skills will help you stand out for a success of a project. Building relationship and influencing others, all these fundamental soft skills, because change management will be very common. Things are rapidly changing in supply chain. And you will have to work with different teams of professionals who perform process or illustrate their best practices and operate all the technology. How would you be able to assimilate with that crowd? Refine your skills and be ready for high pressure and unexpected situation. There is no dull moment in supply chain. The past few years with COVID-19, it proved how much action can happen in this space. When people start getting crazy over toilet papers, or if having a port congestion or facility closure, it demands that ability to quickly respond to situations, as the world depended heavily in supply chain. And it's very important to pay close attention to industry trends. The technology and in this industry change rapidly. I remember more than 10 years ago, the big thing was the QR code. And now all this autonomous and all this other technology that are happening. We're doing cycle counts in one of our warehouses using a drone, and then it goes speed right away to our system. So it's important to pay attention how and be able to quickly adapt to that. Developing a strategic mindset is one thing also that I realize will be very helpful when you want to up your supply chain career into a leadership role, because having a strategic foresight will help you tie or piece things together and align that with your organizational goals. And finally, always be ready for a new learning. Be purposeful about it, be intentional. I've talked a lot of this earlier, also the other previous leaders. Now I want to turn it back to you. This will be your journey. How will you tackle it? What areas do you want to learn? And perhaps we can help provide some resources for that. That's all I have. Thank you for your time and listening.
Thank you, everyone. So before we run into the questions, we always face a question: supply chain career, my ladder, how to go. So thanks to ASCM and APICS. Some people know about APICS so much. It has been since 1957, helping people to learn and develop their career. So people used to know about APICS, CPIM, CSCP, CLTD, the famous certificates. But thanks to our fellows, thanks to everyone who is helping us in the community, affiliates, partners, global, all over the world. So now we have a career ladder in supply chain. So if you start, it will be in the bottom right, if you can see the screen. So workforce, we are so happy now we have 6 foundation courses for anyone who is joining supply chain, like 1 or 2 years in supply chain. I'm new to supply chain. What should I do? What should I learn? As Lucille mentioned, she was doing a task, then she was involved in something related to shipments, and then she started to know about it and know how important it is. Many people didn't do supply chain by major. Most of us work in supply chain by opportunity, by need, by business, because there is an experience, there is a need in the business. Supply chain is about people talents, and having the right talent always needs skills. People need to get upskilling. So we are so happy we have the 6 courses, foundation courses for anyone starting supply chain, no matter what your function is. A higher level after 3 to 5 years in supply chain, you can get the accelerating professionals, certificate in procurement, certificate in warehousing, certificate in planning. More certificates are coming, and some of them will really talk the new language about digitalization and data. And some certificates are related to sustainability in supply chain. And after like 7 years in supply chain, 10 years, 15 years, I want to be certified. I love the word that Jeffrey talked about is validation and calibration, and know the knowledge where you are. And Lucille mentioned as well, you always need feedback, you need to learn. The biggest challenge in supply chain is always learning about new best practices. So best practice is happening every day. Technology is changing the shape. So we have the CSCP, Certified Supply Chain Professional. We have certification in logistics and distribution, CLTD. We have CPIM, and we have SCOR digital standards, which is becoming very nice and very affordable for everyone. And we have as well the digital capabilities model. So I just wanted to thank you all. These are our services at Symbios-Consulting. We can help companies with consulting, training, and digitalization and data analytics. And now we move to the questions, Q&A, please. So I see, let me do the questions. There was one question, I saw you typing already for it, Jeffrey. Okay. So someone is asking, I'm a junior logistic officer, developed my technical skills. How can I develop my skills as a junior logistic officer, develop my technical skills for future opportunities? So Jeffrey, would you take this question?
Yes. Would you go back 2 slides to the training and development ladder?
Yes.
Are you able to do that?
Yes.
Right. To answer your question, there on the right-hand side, you just start at the bottom of that, or whatever appropriate level. The workforce development are really foundational principal courses. They're fantastic to do. For one thing, it's available in classroom environment, but it's also available self-study, online on demand. That's where you start off. And then you work your way up. For example, just in the last month, I have done 2 of the courses in the foundational just to make sure I was kept up to speed on basic courses. So that's what you do. And it's also helpful, and a couple of the panelists mentioned this, get yourself a mentor. They'll help you select these things. I think in the last 5 days, I have mentored about 3 people on just that kind of question. Where do I start? So that's what I would do. Hopefully that answered your question.
Thank you. So Lucille, there is a question about supply chain and service. So I'll give it to you because you work somehow in service.
Is there if you're looking for any particular skills to build in supply chain service, I would say data management will be the first thing because it is a lot of information. So I work in service where we provide service to our customers, and behind the scene, part of what we do is gathering all the cell phones and accessories and activating them. There's a lot of background information that people do not see during consumption that needs to be operated. So technical skills will be the foundational information. Jeffrey mentioned a lot of the people skills because it's supply chain is operated with different divisions, different organizations that you will have to work with. So it wasn't really specific what about in supply chain in services, but if you're looking for particular skills you want to work on, it's the soft skills on how to interact, that communication skills, and starting with data and understanding technical technical terminologies.
Maybe as well, people in service, still you have some supply chains. So you need to differentiate it by supply chain, and you need to look at it and look at the whole supply chain model end to end. So would you like to add anything about this service, Gustavo?
Yes, what you mentioned is right. Most service companies also have a supply chain, and they have to cover that in order to deliver a good service. So a lot of the trainings, for example, that you mentioned, APICS trainings, also cover the service part, especially the SCOR-DS new certification. It covers service, so they might take a look at it.
Okay, so question for you, Gustavo. It talks, I'm working as a stock control in an automotive spare parts workshop. Okay, stock controller in automotive spare parts workshop. Okay, and he's asking, how can I step up? Mina, he's asking how he can step up.
Okay,
in supply.
He works in a spare part, right?
Yes.
For automotive. Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, the spare part, it's a very challenging industry because you have to deal with a lot of variability and how the spare parts are going to be required. How much inventory do you need to keep in order to have good service, but also keep the working capital low. So all of this training that you are watching from ASCM, for example, principles of inventory management, demand management, can help you to provide all this knowledge that you will need to improve your processes.
So would it be a good advice for him to learn as well on reporting, on measuring supply chain KPIs, on planning, on inventory management, because this can help him to step up in his career? What do you think, Lucille? Because she has been there.
Lucille?
Lucille?
I'm sorry, say that again, Shireen. You were cut up for a little bit.
Sorry, so if we go back to the ladder skills, please, Iman, go back to slides. What I'm saying, Mina, he works on stock control, so he wants to grow himself. So what do you advise? Gustavo advice for him was to learn about and select the courses in foundation and go for the learning and understand a lot about the inventory management. And we had an advice as well to learn about planning, inventory analysis, inventory classification, planning skills, and he might step up to procurement. So what do you think? Because you have grown yourself from step by step in your supply chain career.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I have been very proactive in seeking out what other opportunities are out there. I mentioned earlier about stretch assignment. If your day-to-day job is really focused into certain areas only, be proactive in asking, what can I help? Even though it's not part of your daily job description, for you to learn another areas. If you're in the operations piece or transportation and you want to switch on, or just expand your knowledge base in procurement or in safety and compliance, contracting. You can offer your help as a resource. In some cases, I just sit in to observe what they're doing for me to evaluate if this is something that will be an interest of mine. So taking a stretch work will be one of the practical ways you can do that.
Okay, thank you. So my little advice to you, Mina, is you always are doing work and you're suffering because someone else didn't do his work. It could be downstream, the one after you or the one before you. So you have to be careful and start learning. That's the opportunity. I'm translating what she's saying. So it could be the planning side or it could be the procurement side. So you should extend your knowledge. So Gustavo, there is a question from Professor Dr. Ahmed Qadri. He comes from university, okay, academia. He is asking. So this is for you and for Jeffrey as well. So I would love to hear from both of you about it. Do you think that we have to have a change in our knowledge and skills as professors, students, and business persons? So what do you think?
Yes, definitely. All of us need to have those new skills. Supply chain is evolving and evolving very rapidly. And one of the things that I mentioned at the beginning is that we have a gap in the knowledge we have and how the supply chain is moving so fast. So we have to close that gap. We have to prepare. We have to develop new skills in order to manage the supply chain properly.
Yeah,
Jeffrey?
from my perspective, it's slightly different. While things have changed and disruption has become norm, I honestly believe that the solutions for all of this is the basics, the basic knowledge, skills, best practices, and all. So from an academic perspective, there seems to be, and I visited colleges all the time, but there seems to be a focus on AI and all these new technologies. The only one I think that is more relevant, one that I think is more relevant than anything has been mentioned earlier, and that is understanding data and how to use it. And it's much more than just using Excel sheets. Let me tell you that. It's a lot more. And that's been my focus this year on learning for myself. But it's really one of learning the basics and using it. It's really, again, focused back on the individual, not the technology. Technology will not do it. So from an academic perspective, I think we need to go back and really focus on the basic things that we do in supply chain and the leadership and management with a little bit of the new technologies. But how many industries do you know are using the new technologies now or plan to do it in the next 3 or 4 years? It takes a tremendous amount of investment and time to get into the new technologies. But you can get into data management, data analysis, analysts very quickly.
So what I think, if you allow me to add, Jeffrey, supply chain is about making decisions, okay? And everyone in the supply chain should make decisions. So people need to be more educated about using data to take the decisions. The challenge with technology that what we used to say in the years of Six Sigma and Six Sigma 20 years ago, data-driven decision-making. So we were bringing the data to people and managers to take decision. With technology, Lucille mentioned, and with drones and automation, maybe she needs to understand she might have to do a proof of concept. As you said, it will not change dramatically, but we might have to do a proof of concept. We might need to do a use case. So maybe university needs to be ahead of everyone, not the opposite, because the talents and the new people need to learn. So taking decisions in supply chain should be data-driven. And now what they are building for us, control towers, building logistics control tower, supply chain control tower. So it will not be someone watching and saying, do this and do that. The technology is helping us to take the load from our shoulders of those trivial and non-needed tasks like follow-up, watching things, sending emails, and being more proactive in decision making and using technology. So definitely we all should learn to make use of the technology. Okay.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
Yes, we used to spend a lot of time preparing information and gathering information. And with these new technologies that we have available now for business intelligence, predictive, you can have that information in matter of minutes and take all the decisions you need to improve the supply chain.
But we need to use the technology to answer the questions, like diagnostic, why happened. So we go drill down, and technology, and that's why they call it one version of truth.
That's
because
correct.
Yes, because we suffered a lot of time getting different data from even forecasting accuracy. Everyone gives you a different a different number for the accuracy, which is really, even sometimes in some companies looking at the month close numbers, you don't have exact numbers. So technology is helping us to take the decisions, build our control towers, so we have one version of truth. Okay. So I think we have
just one other thing. You're absolutely correct. The technology gives us visibility of the data. It provides us information that used to take us a long time to do, as previously mentioned, but it still takes the person, the manager, the leader, for her or him to make it happen.
Yes, it's amazing. It's impressive. We are 4 people who talk about supply chain. We only met once, but we all have created our own way through learning, experience, learning from each other, seeking feedback, seeking coaching, getting use of the information, learning. So that's amazing. I would like to thank you all for this. We have reached the time. It's impressive. It's Saturday, and you are spending your own time with us and everyone to learn. That's a great thing. That's amazing that you gave us this time. You share your knowledge. It's something very special. I learned from you. I thank you, Jeffrey. I thank you, Gustavo. I thank you, Lucille. Okay. So we all learned from you. So thank you for spending the time for us. Thank you for inspiring people, helping people to learn more about supply chain. Thank you, Jeffrey, for helping the lady who says she's 40 and she wants to start. So I loved your feedback to her, and you wrote to everyone. So we are humans. We will keep learning every day. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
All the best.
All the best. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.